Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Pete Eppele, SVP of Products and Science at Zilliant. Welcome to our webinar, How to Deliver Real-Time Market Pricing in CPQ. Very exciting topic for sure, especially in today's environment, as we're all experiencing unprecedented times and certainly experiencing unprecedented change, both in our personal lives and our professional lives. For the last decade, technology, data, analytics, and the confluence of those three things have been a major factor driving disruption and transformation in critical business processes of both selling and of pricing. This provides opportunities for us to significantly improve our customers' experience by giving them more convenience, making it easier to engage with us, with our companies, certainly providing faster turnaround, better anticipation of what customers need and want, and also the ability to provide pricing that's more aligned to market than ever before. But all of that, frankly, is much easier said than done in this environment where customers, and not only customers, but also suppliers and last but not least, competitors, continue to evolve and become more sophisticated in terms of their approach and how they address the market. So with that as context today, we're going to talk about Salesforce.com, CPQ, and Zilliant, and how we're partnering to provide a best-in-breed approach to drive a world-class customer experience and at the same time provide maximization of both revenue and profitability through real-time market pricing. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Erwan Kerebel, Senior Director of Product Management for Quote-to-Cash Solutions at Salesforce.com. And Erwan's going to talk to us about CPQ today, and also joined by Samantha Leung, Zilliant's Product Experience Manager, who will take you through a live demonstration of the combined solutions. Now, before we get started, just a couple of things on the housekeeping side. First, the session is being recorded and it will be available to you afterward. And secondly, we'll have time for Q&A at the end. If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A window. And after Samantha goes through the demonstration, we'll open it up for those questions and start to answer them. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Erwan.
Well, thank you, Pete, and good morning, everyone. My name is Erwan Kerebel, and I work in the Salesforce CPQ and Building Product Management team as a Director of Quote-to-Cash Solutions. I've worked in the CPQ domain for about 20 years now, and I would say that I'm passionate about CPQ for various reasons. And one of them is that as part of my job, I have the privilege of interacting with many of our customers in many various industries. And I think this slide does a pretty good job summarizing some of what's top of mind for many of the companies across industries. Companies have to grow, but also they have to adapt to changing market conditions. They have to adapt to the COVID sanitary crisis. They have to adapt to disrupting competition. So in order to adapt, grow, and differentiate, many companies take some initiatives that you see here. Some of them start offering complementary products and services. For example, in the manufacturing space, you'll see a lot of companies starting to develop their partner services portfolio. Many companies will also start developing new sales channels. For example, nowadays, the self-service channel is becoming a top priority for many companies in this new norm that COVID is imposing to us. Many companies as well start introducing subscription models for their innovative products or services, or as a way to secure their financial stability. Many companies as well start offering values acquisition models and structuring complex deals. For example, in the medical equipment domain, many manufacturers now offer their equipment as a subscription or as a lease or as a fee per use, for example. And lastly, with what's going on in the world, we'll certainly see a spike in mergers and acquisitions. So companies are going to have to find ways to cross-sell and upsell across divisions. And what we see as well is that a major issue that those companies are facing is that their systems are typically not designed to support the initiative that I've listed earlier. Right? What worked for these companies when they were a single sales channel company or a single product family company will probably not work as well when these companies need to adapt and launch new sales channels, new offerings, or new acquisition models in their portfolio. So in order to address these initiatives, many companies will probably think about what we call duct tape solutions. So it could be, for example, launching a spreadsheet for pricing and quoting purposes. It could be, for example, as well, using manual processes, right? Swivel chair processes, double entry processes in their ERP solutions, for example. It could be as well acquiring a point solution to address one use case, for example, a standalone e-commerce solution or a subscription management solution. But the problem that we see with these short-term fixes is that the quote-to-cash debt is increasing. Right? They may work for a time, but this debt builds up, and as companies scale their business, cracks begin to show. And what we see is that over time, the agility of these companies start to stall. There's a point where their quote-to-cash systems have just become too convoluted, and the cost of maintaining and integrating the point solutions become too high. The time it takes to produce a quote by a salesperson increases, and these companies start losing deals to the competition that is more reactive. Also, faulty integrations and manual processes will start introducing errors in the orders, and which will lead to revenue leakage issues or customer satisfaction issues. So what we've done at Salesforce in order to address those issues is that we have introduced a complete quote-to-cash solution on the Salesforce Customer 360 platform. This solution allows our customers to address all the steps of the quote-to-cash process. So companies can configure deals, negotiate pricing with their customers, generate quotes, proposals, and contracts, fulfill sales orders, and even send invoices and collect payments, all of that on the Salesforce platform. We address all the revenue models, which means capital sales, subscriptions, service contracts, or usage-based products, for example. And oftentimes, these newer revenue models that I've just listed introduce the need to manage contracts and their life cycle. So things like amendments, upgrades, downgrades, renewals become key capabilities of the quote-to-cash solution. So we do all of this on a single data model because of several reasons. And one of them is when we talk about integrating product catalogs, pricing strategy, financial data, we are talking about integrating complex data models, which is hard and risky. So this is why we want to have all of the quote-to-cash system on a single data model. And the side benefit of this is that since we now have a single data model, it becomes much more easier to produce KPIs such as customer lifetime value, customer churn, DSO, and many other KPIs that are essential to assess the health of your business. Also, being on the Salesforce platform allows us to leverage other complementary solutions like analytics. It allows us to connect to complementary solutions like Service Cloud and Field Service Lightning. And lastly, it also allows us to integrate with your backend solutions, your ERP with MuleSoft. And lastly, what I would say as well is that having been in the CPQ space for almost 20 years, as I said earlier, I know that within CPQ, within quote-to-cash, there is a wide variety of use cases and a high level of complexity that companies expect their CPQ solution, their quote-to-cash solution to support. So in order to support all of these use cases, we at Salesforce, we decided to build a plugin framework that allows us to extend our CPQ solution and accommodate very advanced requirements without breaking the core software. And obviously, one of these areas where we see a lot of complex requirements is pricing, with pricing guidance, price management, and price optimization type of use cases. So the quote calculator plugin that you see listed in this slide allows our customers to extend our capabilities, but also it allows our partners to develop and publish packages on our AppExchange solution marketplace. The benefit of the AppExchange marketplace is that it's a guarantee for our customers to benefit from a productized integration. It's a guarantee as well that since those packages leverage the standard plugin framework that we have, it's a guarantee that we will support upgradability, and our automatic upgrade that we have in CPQ will not be broken by using those packages. And also a guarantee of security, because all of the packages that are published on the AppExchange go through an extensive security review by the Salesforce teams. So Zilliant has just published recently a package on the AppExchange that integrates CPQ and Zilliant for pricing guidance. So Pete, why don't you talk about how Zilliant and CPQ complement each other with this integration package?
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Erwan. As Erwan described, Salesforce continues to define best-in-class capabilities around quote to cash and interacting with, having sales interact with customers. And it's really fantastic how they've created this plugin framework to allow complementary solutions together. In the same way that Salesforce focuses on creating that best-in-class exchange between salespeople and customers and that engagement, Zilliant is focused in a complementary way on helping provide that best-in-class experience for pricers who are working to manage pricing through this ever-changing environment. And that includes basically complementing CPQ solution with things like advanced analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning applied to pricing and price optimization. The ability to become more dynamic and responsive to external triggers and conditions in the marketplace, the ability to create that consistency of pricing experience across channels, whether it be CPQ, e-commerce, or others, and the ability for, last and not least, for people to be able to manage centrally a very personalized pricing experience for our customers. As time goes on, people expect that personalization, but frankly, it's hard to manage with a small group of pricing folks. It's hard to manage a personalized customer experience and make sure everything is on target and market. So the ability to manage those prices, do what-if simulations to predict revenue and margin impacts and drive changes out are all critical and complementary with this ability for Zilliant to plug into Salesforce CPQ through the connector framework. So before we actually dive in, I just a few more things to share for context here, because from the chair of the pricer, like we were saying before, there's a growing set of change and trigger, and I think Erwan described it so well before in terms of the ways that we approach these things in the past don't necessarily lend themselves well to the future, given how much change is going on. So we see triggers and things like costs that are changing more frequently and recently just at deeper levels than we've seen in a long time. But not just cost, inventory increases potentially in customer defection, untapped opportunity to sell more to customers. The list of triggers that we see in our environment goes on. And executives in our companies obviously want to act very quickly and very decisively to these triggers, to respond to these triggers, to ensure that from a customer perspective, we are continuing to retain and grow those customer relationships and drive the overall business results and profitability of our business. And from a 40,000-foot view, this seems like a very simple concept, a very easy idea to sort of comprehend and understand. But the reality is that executing on it can be so challenging based on how things sort of are set up and how they work in our environments. And this is taken from work that we've done with a lot of customers that we've worked with. It's interesting. There's a great story that I always tell. It's about a prospect of ours that when we started to engage with them, they said that their quarterly process for updating prices and responding to things like cost triggers, the quarterly process took them 5 months to execute. So I tried to do the math on that one. I couldn't quite figure it out, but I think that's a reality for so many folks. And part of the reason is there's a lot of stakeholders, as you can see represented in this diagram. There's many stakeholders, many decisions to be made. Very often data is not consolidated. It's not in a usable, ready format. So we're engaging with IT to get information. We're leveraging tools like analytical business intelligence platforms, Excel, email to try to drive change across wide product portfolios and wide customer bases. For many customers and many prospects that we talk to too, they're trying to engage. When you look at all the challenge that lies within this, just from an execution perspective, the idea of applying more intelligence, artificial intelligence or machine learning on top of all this, very often has a hard time seeing the light of day. So what it ultimately sort of leads to is that as we try to become more nimble, more agile, and be able to respond to these triggers in our environment in a more efficient way, we're still left with extraordinarily long turnaround times in terms of being able to execute change. Certainly our commercial relationships and our pricing with our customers can go stale, as we've all sort of seen happen in cases over the last few months. And very often it just leads to very broad-based and you might use the term peanut butter spread as opposed to surgical action. And that's really what we look to transform with this concept of real-time market pricing integrated together with CPQ seamlessly, so that we can make that process of trigger to transaction more seamless by streamlining the decision processes, automating activities that can be automated, integrate AI and machine learning where it can be put in, and elevate roles of people, get people out of data, roles of data assemblers, and move them into roles of thinking more strategically about how to drive pricing and how to improve customer relationships. And so to that end, with this real-time market pricing concept, we look at a very streamlined way of being able to take those various triggers that you see in the marketplace, whether it be changes in costs and commodities, supply, demand, the increased visibility you might have to competitive prices out there, knowledge about your inventory position, and also new triggers, just e-commerce interactions that your customers have with you, signals that you might be getting through IoT, and be able to drive that through a very efficient and on-target market-aligned price determination process that's driven by your strategy as a business, whether you want to drive revenue, whether you want to drive profitability, or a balance of both, and leveraging a combination of science around pricing as well as business rules to be able to quickly and efficiently determine those prices in response to triggers, and then from a delivery perspective, get them out through all channels, whether that be CPQ, whether that be e-commerce, wherever it might be in your environment. And last but not least, what we see is a lot of customers sort of aspiring and driving towards even automating sales and negotiation processes, where there's a desire from a customer perspective to be able to leverage all of these capabilities to be less hands-on, especially with small deals. So looking to leverage technology and intelligence to be able to even automate some things around negotiation and counter-proposing when customers want to negotiate, not necessarily requiring a sales rep or a deal desk touch on those things. And also being able to automate the cross-selling and upselling processes as well. All possible as you start to leverage the technology set and this combination of Zilliant and Salesforce together. So if we take just a one layer down and double click behind the scenes, what we're going to be taking a look at in just a second from Sam is a process where we've taken data and information from disparate systems. It could be the ERP system, the CRM system, the CPQ system, but all these places that have information that can drive insight to us about customers, consolidating that together, both internal and external sources, to make that information usable, and then leveraging optimization capabilities and science to be able to determine insight across any number of areas. Certainly pricing insight, what should I be charging? What is the market willing to accept? What is the market willing to pay for any given product in my portfolio across any given segment? And also broader insight around sales and how do I grow top line and reduce customer defection? How do I increase basically my cross-selling and upselling into the customer base? How do I make transactions more profitable? And all of that information and capability is available through these connectors that you see. And this is what we'll see, sort of the magic, if you will, of this CPQ connector today, so that I'm able to incorporate any data sources, any information I want. I'm able to change my pricing strategy on the fly, and through the CPQ connector, have that immediately available to me and shown in Salesforce CPQ. And that's what Sam is going to take us through here. So I will hand it on over to Sam to take you through the demonstration.
Thanks, Pete. Hi, everyone. My name is Sam Leung, and I'm happy to be here to show you how Zilliant enables price managers to use Zilliant's pricing tools to strategically update and manage their prices and deliver those prices into Salesforce CPQ using our new Zilliant connector that can be found on the App Exchange. Let's start this demo as the pricer, and I'll start off in the Price IQ strategy interface. This strategy interface allows the pricer to make adjustments to the original model that was set up during implementation of Zilliant's price optimization. During that initial implementation, we'll work with you to define the attributes that drive price response. And you can see a subset of those attributes here, such as product category, customer spend, industry, and region. Through that process, we'll set a baseline scenario that optimizes all of your prices. And from that baseline, I can create different what-if scenarios to fine-tune the model to address triggers in the business. In this case, I've created a what-if scenario, and I'm playing around with different P&L objectives for an overall product family, as well as getting specific with different segments. So for example, with my printer paper product family, I am being more revenue aggressive in the United Kingdom region. I also have the ability to manage different prices for customer spend. For example, maybe I want to set or give my larger customers more favorable pricing than my smaller customers. Again, setting the overall strategy for my paper division and then specifying exceptions. I can also set relationships based on good, better, best. I can set how much these price difference can be between the different ranks. At this point, I could optimize the prices and publish these prices out into the market. First, I want to click on Visualize to see the potential impact that my price will have on my business. My scenario dashboard shows me KPIs about the different scenarios that I've created, showing me price change, margin change, revenue change, etc. I can also see that I am not peanut butter spreading the price change. Some of my customers are receiving a price decrease, some of them are increasing, and some of them are actually staying exactly the same. I can dive a little bit deeper into the product dashboard where I'm able to see how exactly my prices are getting changed. In this case, maybe I want to focus on my highest grossing revenue products and understand which price or how the prices are being impacted. So at this point, I'll go ahead and publish these prices out, and we'll go to the sales rep to see how prices are shown in the quoting process. So I'm logged into Salesforce CPQ as a sales rep, and I'll go ahead and create a brand new quote from an opportunity that I've been working on. You can see that directly on my opportunity, I've added a couple different products through the conversations I've had so far, but I'll go ahead and create the quote directly from here. And I'll open up that quote and edit the line items. So you can see that the products that I added to my opportunity are automatically added to my quote. From here, I could add more products if necessary, but let's go ahead and price these products out. So right away, I'm able to see the start target floor guidance that was generated from the strategy interface that we were looking at a couple minutes ago. So these are the prices I'm going to start my negotiation with. And I can dive into each line item to understand which segments were driving this guidance. In this case, the customer size is small, healthcare is industry, and region is US. Again, these are the attributes driving what guidance displays here. So for this particular quote, my customer has actually requested a very specific discount. They're working on a project, and they've asked for a 25% discount on the standard weight paper product that they're ordering. So I'll go ahead and actually save this 25% discount. And you can see that as I adjust those discounts, I can see that the approval is going to need manager approval because of the discount and how it relates to the guidance. And I also see the price quality is under floor. What I can also do as a sales rep is review analytics that give me a little bit more details about why I'm going to need approval. In this case, I can see that customers in the healthcare US and small segment are paying a lot more for this customer than the 25% discount that I've set here in this quote. So this gives me a little bit more context about the current price and helps me have these conversations with my customer about maybe potentially having a 16% discount that's more aligned with the market than a 25%. So I'll quick save this particular quote. And so from here, what I want to do is actually switch to a pricer, back to the pricer, to show you how we can modify the guidance that appears here post optimization. So I'll switch to a pricer, and as a pricer, I've come to the Zilliant IQ dashboard, where I'm able to see a list of all the different workbooks that I've created to manage the different prices in my organization. So in this case, in this example, I want to take the optimization prices that were generated, and I want to fine tune those prices and adjust based on triggers in my business. But other examples that you may be managing is our list prices, matrix prices, or even customer price agreements. So I'll click into my workbook that is called Segment Overrides and Price Adjustments. And I created this work specifically to fine tune the optimized prices. And so you can see here that I have over 29,000 different prices that represent a different iteration of iteration of my segments. So for example, my product family, category, region, and industry, those segments, the customer spend that we saw earlier, all of those are blown out to give me the exact prices that the optimization engine has generated. So in this case, what I want to do is react to a trigger in my business, which is excess inventory in the standard weight paper category. And so what I want to do is incentivize my customers to buy that excess inventory by increasing the start discount that we show in CPQ. So the first thing I'll do is actually filter this large workbook down to only the product category that I want to update. So I'm only updating the standard weight paper. So you can see the 29,000 went down to 6,000, and what I want to do is actually override the start guidance that was provided. So I'll modify this column and I'll mass update the data. And so what I'll do is I'll actually take the start discount that I have today and add an additional 2%. So this is one way to make these adjustments by mass updating, items in bulk. But I can also go in and modify this on a line level, or 3 rows or 2 rows at a time. So at this case, maybe I want to go ahead and publish out, and you could enforce rules about approval processes within a pricing organization if that's the way that you want to do approvals. For this particular scenario, I'll go ahead and publish all these prices out directly to, in this case, CPQ. But again, know that you can definitely add in approval processes and workflows to moderate how these prices get published. So I'll switch back to the sales rep, and we'll focus on this quote that I've created. And I'm going to just refresh this quote, and we'll notice that because of the standard weight paper category that we updated, you'll notice this start discount change. So I'm going to click on calculate. So you can see that 2% was added on that start discount. Obviously you may want to moderate, within a quote. So, add in different policies about price consistency within a quote. But really the key takeaway here that I wanted to show is that a price can change immediately in response to a pricer's update. So before we end the demo today, I want to show you one more update. So again, I'm going to switch back to the pricer and come back to my workbook. And I just, again, want to show you some flexibility. So I'm going to click on the promo discounts tab that I've created here. And because we look up prices based on customer, product, quantity, and even time of day, we can use that data to make different types of price updates. So let's say I want to offer a promotional discount for a designated amount of time in response to that, response to changes in the market. And so I want to apply an additional discount for my standard weight paper, and I want to set that for a couple months. So maybe I want to go into the end of October. And then I'm going to set the discount to 3%. And so I can set those discounts and actually look at my price simulator tab, which allows me to see what exactly a sales rep will see in CPQ. So I've added the customer ID and the product ID from the quote that we were looking at, and you can see how the price builds up. So for my standard weight paper for this product, you can see the 6.2, and then I added that 2% discount on top of that. I didn't modify the target or the floor discounts, but I did set a promotional discount for a certain amount of time, which is at 3%, which gets me to my final guidance that appears in CPQ, which is 11.2, 19, and 23. So let's take one last look at the quote and calculate this and see how those prices have been updated. So now you can see 11.2, 19, and 23 is now what shows up and reflected in CPQ. So hopefully you were able to see how a pricer can optimize deal guidance and manage those different price strategies, but most importantly, make those prices available to sales reps in Salesforce CPQ. Thanks. Back to you, Pete.
All right. Thanks so much, Sam. Appreciate it, and great demo. Very insightful for sure. So that's the end of the presentation. We will switch over to Q&A now in case anybody has questions. And again, I would just direct you to the Q&A window over there. You can go ahead and type them in and we'll be able to answer. We've got a couple here, and I think the first question, Erwan, is directed to you. And the question is, why is the CPQ connector different than any standard integration?
Well, the main thing is that this connector is a packaged product on our AppExchange solution. So it means that it's a product that it's a package that is created and maintained by Zilliant. It also means that Zilliant maintains this product moving forward. It also means that the integration between Zilliant and CPQ respects our guidelines so that moving forward, CPQ customers will be able to upgrade to the latest releases of Salesforce CPQ without any issue because we guarantee backward compatibility of the connector. And also because it went through an extensive security review process with our Salesforce security teams, it means that security is guaranteed for this connector as well.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Erwan. I've got another one, and Sam, I'll pass this in your direction. So it says, in the demo, I saw that you were providing start, target, and floor guidance, basically 3 price points. Is it possible to, if I wanted to show just a single price, or if I didn't want to maybe show the floor, is that possible through the connector?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely. So that is an implementation choice. We've definitely heard from customers where they want to give the sales rep, the price that you want them to be at. And so that's definitely something that we can do instead of showing that envelope. We just show one price. Definitely a common thing we hear.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, we've got another one coming in, and Erwan, I'll pass this to you first. I may jump in as well. Question is, when do we direct a customer from Einstein price guidance to Zilliant?
Yeah, it's a good question. And at the end of the day, it's true that Einstein has some machine learning capabilities that could be used for pricing. The main thing that Zilliant provides is that there are a ton of capabilities that are built in specifically for pricing use cases, price guidance, price estimation use cases that would require much more configuration work and sometimes development work to enable an Einstein type of implementation.
Yep, fantastic. I've got another one here, and I'll jump in on this one. Is there a CPQ integration with the Deal Manager package? So Deal Manager is a product provided by Zilliant that really focuses on managing customer-specific pricing. And what we've seen with CPQ and Deal Manager is that they could be very complementary to each other. Often what we've seen when they've been in the same environment is that CPQ will focus on the quoting side and just sort of the order taking and flow business that goes along with just sort of standard B2B transactions, and then Deal Manager may be used to manage the longer term pricing relationship with the customer. So it's not necessarily quoting or taking orders, but more of a tool for reps to be able to manage the price relationship. So that's certainly something that we've seen there connected in terms of those working together. And again, because Zilliant and Salesforce have been partners now, the Zilliant solution has been built on top of Force.com for over 10 years. There's a very tight integration in terms of being able to connect the dots between the objects and share information seamlessly between Salesforce and Zilliant. Another one here, does Zilliant support customer individual framework agreement pricing? Yes, that is something, again, just sort of alluding to the Deal Manager capability. That's certainly a place that we do it. And we also can work with Salesforce CPQ to manage customer individual agreements. But that is a significant, from a pricing perspective, that's such an important area ultimately to cover. And it's such a big driver of profitability for many companies that we work with. They may have 80–90% of revenue that gets priced off of customer agreements. So the ability to manage those agreements, at the sales rep level and also centrally, to allow the pricing function to be able to see across the board what's going on with agreements and do mass updates. Very critical. So I think we do, a very strong job in this integration of both from the pricer's persona and perspective, as well as the sales rep's persona, to be able to manage customer individual agreements. A lot of good questions coming in here. I'll keep rolling through the list. Another one is, can we push customer pricing back to ERP? I'll answer that one from the Zilliant perspective, and then Erwan, maybe you could take it from Salesforce perspective. That's certainly something that we can do and very often do with Zilliant, is take any kind of pricing, whether it be, sometimes we talk about different price modes that you may manage in the context of Zilliant. So your list pricing, which might be updated a couple times a year, your e-commerce pricing, for instance, those, as need be, that information can all be published back to the ERP system through direct connectors. And then Erwan, you may want to talk a little bit to putting pricing back to ERP through CPQ.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So in a lot of situations, CPQ is used in a quote to contract type of scenario, where CPQ is used to define pricing for a customer for a duration of time. In those cases, it's a very common scenario where the prices that are set in a quote in CPQ that is converted into a contract will be pushed to the ERP in the form of pricing conditions. For example, when we talk about SAP backend, for example. So yes, it's a very, very common integration pattern where list prices might be coming from the ERP, and then contracted prices that are set in CPQ will then flow down to the backend system, SAP or the ERP.
Great. And then the other one I see here is, are there any limitations to IQ on subscription pricing? Yeah, great question, and certainly something that's continued to emerge. IQ is able to optimize subscription pricing and pricing for services as well as product pricing. Very often, what we see there is a concept where, you know, we mentioned before how pricing becomes so personalized for folks, and subscription pricing is often that way, where a customer specific subscription price would be managed. And so a lot of the same capability that you see there in terms of how we segment and identify market price levels for subscriptions, as well as how we manage those subscriptions over time, because it's so critical. You know, subscriptions obviously are intended to be long-term agreements between you and customer that are subject to a renewal process, and making sure that you stay aligned to market with your subscription prices over time. Don't get too high, don't get too low, are key to driving profitability in that type of business. Okay, I think that's everything as far as the Q&A goes. Really appreciate all of the questions coming from the audience today, and appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about this great topic. So thanks, Erwan, and thanks, Sam, for your help with everything today, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the day. Thanks very much.